Issue 277. We start out with Sonic in Thunder Plains Zone, which sounds like a brand new region name. That's a good start. And then I see him calling someone Lupe, whose appearance reminds me of Lupe a little bit, but doesn't really look like her. She just has the same color scheme. I guess she looks nice, but it's not a very good redesign when at first glance you have no idea who it's supposed to be at first. She has white fur around her eyes instead of just having eyes there. That's kind of the thing that was gotten rid of for Antoine. She looked fine. She looks noticeably younger now, and I really don't see the point. There's no way you can say he doesn't have a SADM negative bias if he thought their perfect designs weren't good enough as they were. There's a reason I assumed she'd look the same in the reboot. I was assuming only the AOSCH characters would look completely different because he has no respect for AOSCH, being the silly cartoon. But this came out a complete left field to me. I was expecting the reboot to have ended after or during Worlds Unite, so I wasn't sure I'd even see Lupe. But now I'm conflicted on whether I'm glad I got to. They're in Thunder Plains, and I'm being reminded of the lightning field from SADM, and now I'm wondering if it's just ripping off that idea. And Thunder Plains maybe even was the name from SADM. What's the point of doing the same thing again? Isn't it obvious that they should have a different kind of story? Good thing they're being chased by an E-series badnik called Tau, but not literally the Doomsday UFO again. But its oval-shaped appearance briefly made me assume it was meant to be just like it anyways, but with a different color scheme. I like that Sonic's holding a ring, and so is Lupe, and they seem to be magically linked together by a star, so there's a proper explanation for why she's able to keep up with them. He's actually using the Syncering things from Knuckles Chaotix. I wanted that to come back. I'm just surprised it's used for someone other than the Chaotix. I hope we learn how Sonic got these things, like they're on loan from Vector maybe. So maybe the Link rings spread the speed force to Lupe so that she's not injured from Sonic taking the simple solution and running away while holding her arm. I also love that Chip is clinging on to Sonic's forehead while he's running, so that explains why he's not being left behind. It's annoying to me that we start out in the middle of the action. It means I start out confused and detached. At least that's fast pacing, avoiding a long beginning, but still, where exactly are we on the planet? Is this a flashback? Is there a guide temple around here? Sonic's overwhelming Chip with his speed, and he actually points out that Chip could have stayed on the Sky Patrol. And Chip says he didn't want to miss out on the excitement. Meanwhile, Sally says to Sonic from far away that that wasn't the plan, and Bunny warns her about some badniks with a horrible-looking DeviantArt OC beside her. I mean, a member of the Wolf Pack. Seriously, with this and that pink Meropis guard, I'm starting to be worried that Flynn was getting literal DeviantArt OC jars to give him designs for new characters, but never mind, that'd be illegal. Unless they're literally hired as artists. The artist is coming off like that anyways. At least the one near Sally seems to look good. Why is their time being wasted by them fighting harmless robots that die in one hit? I don't know why that's still considered acceptable plot content. And Sally defensively tries to insist that Sonic has stuck to a plan before and can't remember a time when he did. So, she's disloyal. But Bunny has a good point that he's always come through. But wait, doesn't this kind of make the plan she tells Sonic to follow look redundant and inferior because Sonic always disobeys her plan? I thought the reboot was telling me that Sonic was always following her plans to the letter because he agreed to slowly walk on a beach instead of running around looking for an emerald in 5 seconds. Which implied he always followed her plans, even if they were stupid. Also, when Station Square was flooded again, didn't Sonic follow her plans exactly? So after that pace-breaking padding, Sonic tells Chip that this is a stop, and Lupe says she's got him, and he yells duck while on her, and Sonic runs around dodging the lightning. Lightning appears at the speed of light, which is faster than sound. So either Reboot Sonic does in fact run faster than light, or he's just getting lucky every time he avoids a bolt of lightning. So Sonic lures the badnik to the field where he gets struck by lightning. Oh. All it did was shoot lasers while chasing him and then copy the SADM episode's conclusion with no creativity at all. That's really lame. What is the point of it being a different type of machine at that point? At least more actual stuff happened in the episode. Like before, it's cool that nature itself rebelled against Eggman's technology. But if this isn't showing us something actually new, I shouldn't have been shown it at all. It's pointless. I mean, this is the last time Lupe's ever gonna show up. You'd think her story would be something other than a complete retread. Sally calls Sonic's plan dangerous and reckless after Bunny shows loyalty to Sonic by saying this was just as good as her plan. And Nicole then shows Sally to be a hypocrite by saying that her plan to challenge Phage alone was reckless. It's hard for me to believe she'd do something that stupid. Bunny says that Sally wouldn't risk anyone's life but her own, and she thinks of herself as an acceptable casualty. Except Sally risks other people's lives every single time they go freedom fighting. So Bunny shouldn't have said most of that. Are you kidding me? Sonic says to Lupe that this brings back memories, and she agrees. So, if their first meeting was just like the Sadie M episode in the reboot, then that just makes it even worse. The only thing interesting about this was that, oh, they're going through this kind of scenario in conclusion after Sonic's already known Lupe for a while. Never mind, it happened before. This is a different continuity, remember? Sonic says that he's gotta thank Dr. E for all these rings. So he's making himself useful? That's a pleasant surprise. Lupe says that the Freedom Fighters will never need to thank her because she owes them more than she could ever repay, and because Chip doesn't understand, this is an excuse for her to tell him about years ago. This better be original. If it's just J.O. Oliveira's story again with good art, I'll want to skip it. We see Sonic beating Robot while Sally runs up to Lupe and asks if she's hurt and wants to get her someplace safe. I always thought she'd have greeted Bunny like this when she got hurt and had to get cybernetics afterwards. Lupe says that no place is safe and everything is ruined, and she's upset about losing her father. I like that Sonic insulted Eggman as Robotnik like in Sadie M. So why doesn't he call her Robotnik in the reboot if Flynn did this just fine? Why does he only want to use the term Robotnik to make fun of it? He runs off before Sally could tell him to help with the Badniks, and Antoine says she doesn't need him when he will protect her. Well, he does have a sword. Sally immediately has no faith in her and her friends, and says that the Badniks will overwhelm them. Yeah, fear the Badniks that die in one hit to everything. You could spin around while attacking. Can he do a spin attack like in Zelda? She tries to give Lupe an order, and she says that she can't. Princess, hello? Then we see Sonic spin attack off the UFO looking like a ripoff of the Doomsday super weapon thing from Sadie M. And it's confusing that they weren't even creative with that, considering that this is original. Sally tells Lupe that she only got her father and home back when she fought for them. I remember this panel. So in the reboot, she already had them back when she met Lupe. That was quick. I wish I saw her get them back. She apologizes to Lupe for her father being gone and says that if she doesn't fight for her people now, she'll never get the chance. Well, there are two sides to this. On the one hand, I'm satisfied at seeing Sally be useful by motivating Lupe to become a freedom fighter. On the other, it's at the expense of Lupe's character. Because we all know her and the Wolf Pack have been fighting Robotnik for a long time when they met Sally in the show, so they were competent and admirable. At least in theory. The way it was done in Sadie M and Archie, nobody got the short end of the stick. There was nothing wrong with it. But here, one's luckier than the other. At least I'm thinking good for Sally. Why is Lupe the only familiar Sadie M member of the Wolf Pack that's here? Where's the pink Wolf Girl twins? Again, it really shows his Sadie M bias that he only shows Lupe for no reason. And of course Sonic's gonna lure the UFO to be struck by lightning just like in the show, because fuck originality. I'm not gonna be happy about them ripping off Sadie M, because at the end of the day, it's almost just as boring and uncreative as ripping off the game. The originality was the only reason I paid any attention to this. It's especially baffling that it isn't original enough because the writer doesn't like Sadie M, so you think he would want to be different from it to try to prove he was better than it, instead of admitting that it did stuff right. Why couldn't Sonic be dealing with a different looking machine and defeating it in a different way? Eggman's in the UFO instead of Snively? Oh, that makes a world of difference. At least it's something new. I like that Eggman reacts realistically for once to being called Robotnik, and then he hates being called Eggman. Though it makes me wonder how someone as stubborn and ill-tempered as him could have possibly transitioned to calling himself that and even calling his armies Egg Armies. He's using the idea that makes more sense from SE1, respecting a game, but only for one panel. Lupe hopes that most of the other villagers went to the tornado shelter. It's certainly smart of them to build that. And we see Lupe using Antoine's sword again as he asks politely for it back. That also disappointed me because I was hoping she had a sword herself. That would have been original. It was still cool that she used a sword, but it would have been cooler if her entire village had those. I guess she's really strong if a mere sword swing from her can cut through robots like butter. But maybe the badniks are just meant to be cannon fodder. So Eggman purposefully makes them out of flimsy metal and hopes to kill the heroes by surprise attack from the side or behind when they're busy, or overwhelm them with sheer numbers. That should be explained. Like, he makes them really cheap, so he can make a lot of them. There's a reason his sword didn't go through robots before. Also, there's carbon in the air, so you'd think Eggman would have the technology to make carbon nanotubes out of the air, as many as he wants. So logically, you'd think all of his robots would be made of carbon nanotubes. If he can make a portal machine to another universe, he can make carbon nanotubes out of the carbon in the air. Can the plot get interesting now? So far it's been 9 pages of basically nothing, so that's disappointing. It's like a void instead of... I barely feel like I've gotten an actual story. Lupe explains that she and Sally in the past had driven off the invasion, and then out of complete nowhere, Sonic reveals that Lupe's always been a Gaia Key Guardian. I'm really glad we have this originality at least. It's a low-effort way to spice things up and give her more competence. Though it still hasn't made up for needing Sally to convince her to freedom fight when she could have decided to do it on her own. I like that Gaia Key Guardian is shorter than Gaia Temple Guardian, but barely. Gaia Guardian would be better. It's just that I don't really feel like the heroes earned and deserved getting a Gaia Key done and over with, because all that this so-called story is repetitive retreads of Lupe's first story. This is not what I'd look forward to. It's mostly forgettable, isn't it? It's like there isn't an issue. The heroes getting this major victory feels underwhelming to me because they didn't do anything interesting and truly exciting. There wasn't any hope that Sonic would actually get hit by lightning, or get hit at all. Even in Sonic Underground, Sonic got hit in the rear by lightning in a similar lightning field. Suddenly, Lupe reveals that the Egg Army garrisons are in the wrong place, as the Ancients built many decoy temples. She says this right after she says that the Ancients weren't fools. Okay, this looked smart at first, but only because of the insanity of the fact that there's someone who wants to keep the world shattered like this. And so, he couldn't destroy all the Gaia temples because he doesn't know which ones are the real ones, and he'd have to destroy hundreds of temples. I guess he wouldn't have enough missiles to do that all at once. Fine. That should be explained. Again, there is no way in hell that anyone would have predicted that Eggman would want to keep the world shattered. The Ancients were fools at the time because in most realistic circumstances, their decoy temples would have just severely delayed the world being put back together. So only the Guardians know the true location of the ones they're sworn to protect. So, was there humanity around the last time the planet was shattered so that someone could put the planet back together? And live to tell the tale and write about the fact that the planet was shattered? Because they'd never succeed if this was the case, because back in the past, it'd be impossible to go to the Apato's Guardian and then fly around the world to each Guardian. I always assumed Light Gaia put the planet back together after fighting Dark Gaia minutes after the planet was shattered, and Unleashed was just an exception because the planet shattered early. That has to be it. Still, the Ancients should have known better than to have tons of decoys of temples specifically designed to put the planet back together. This would be like having a bunch of decoy hospitals. Because oh no, what if criminals try to attack hospitals or use them for evil purposes? Well, we better build a ton of fake ones just in case. That'd be like having decoy fire departments and police stations, because what if the real ones get targeted? This is even worse. The planet as a whole would be doomed to have to deal with invasive species monsters every night for the rest of existence if it never got put back together because of stuff like this. I have a question. Couldn't their plan to have only Guardians know where the temples are have horribly backfired if one of the Gaia Key Guardians died without having kids, and the whole family was wiped out? If it's not just hereditary heirlooms, what if an entire village with a Guardian in it got destroyed? It sounds crazy, but what if one of the Gaia Guardians and all of his potential successors was killed in a natural disaster? They're keeping what they are a secret from most people. So if them and whoever is in the know all die for some reason, the world from now on would be screwed. Or at least stay shattered for much longer, because it takes much longer to find the Sun and Moon keys. involving archaeological digs to dig them up, or even requesting them from a museum or some rich guy's house. That kind of thing happening is inevitable because how long has this been a thing throughout history on this planet? Thousands of years? It's already bad enough that there's multiple temples. There could have been just 2 temples. I'm sure at the time of the ancients there wasn't any planes, so no one would have any way of traveling to other pieces of the planet. So no one should have had any reason to assume that anyone would be able to find all the temples and fix the world then, if a way to get to the other pieces didn't exist yet. I guess there's a prophecy that the world will be shattered again, and part of its prophecy is that someone will be able to travel to the other pieces again. What difference does it make? If the temples are closed, Eggman eventually finds them and keeps them surrounded by armies. If the temples are opened, Eggman eventually finds them and keeps them surrounded by armies. Why have keys then? Lupe says that her wolf pack has been staging small raids to make Eggman think the one he's controlling is actually important. Seriously, why have keys? The ones that were surrounded by egg armies, an emerald would have been put in them by now, and so the world would have been mostly put back together by now. How is that a bad thing? Then Bunny wonders if Coral was looking after one of those decoy temples. That sounds like an after-the-fact adding to what it is, not something that was always the case in the writer's mind. But at least it explains its existence better. Lupe says that the E100 unit was straying far from the false temple, as if it was searching for something. And then they see the crashed decoy prison egg that had the emerald. How is it a decoy? And the emerald's not there. God forbid, that'd be faster. So Bunny wonders if one of the locals found it, which would let us see a village that would world build this place, beyond it just being a reference to a Saudi M episode, establishing a specific culture it has, like Spanish. Lupe says she'll send the wolf pack to ask around and make herself useful. Sally says that she and Bunny will search too. Realistically, Sonic would find it much faster than all of them in minutes of asking. Sally instead tells Sonic and Chip to go to the Keys' hiding place with Lupe. Okay, so no excuse for the emerald not being put in the temple as soon as possible after he goes there. At least Chip made himself useful by alerting the heroes to the prison egg in the first place. If he makes a really common habit of this, I might actually respect him. That's all you need to do. Make him useful. He hasn't been really annoying in a while, saying stuff like, "Good morning, son." Wait, what? That's seriously the end of the story? They sure wasted a lot of my time. That was nothing. At least that wasn't horrible. Aw, there's so many more pages after this. We see Sally and Bunny at Stormland Zone, so at least that's a new title. But I'm not fooled into thinking it's a new idea because it's just the lightning field area of Saudi M. I don't even know which continent they're on. I assume it's South America. They see the Egg Army base, and Sally says that if they have the emerald in the temple, she doesn't know if they'll be able to retrieve it. Bunny's with her! Ooh, it's by an alright writer. Nicole says that she doesn't think that E100 unit would have been deployed had they already found the emerald. They could have found it in the meantime. Or it could simply be patrolling and looking for freedom fighters. Sally doesn't say that though, and instead ignores the possibility and wants to just search the temple grounds. Bunny guesses they can't simply fly over the gate without alerting the army, and Nicole says that disabling the spherical security field will set off the alarm, but she thinks she can disrupt it wirelessly without a response if all of them are quick enough. They run over somewhere, and Sally compliments Nicole. I wonder if they'll still get in danger though. Sally makes the reckless decision to split up. Yeah, separate yourself from your super strong bodyguard. At least she has weapons this time, so she's not a complete idiot. But still, of course they get spotted by a camera because we need conflict. Well, at least it seems to be a Saudi M camera bot. But oh god, she just had to be spotted by one of the horrible looking OCs working for Eggman. This is why Robians were thought up. At least I could forgive their designs, because Eggman wanted them to look off-putting. He specifically made the roboticizer so that the entire thing would look off-putting. The point is, it looks so distractingly bad that I can't enjoy myself. I can't take it seriously anymore. I'm completely skipping every villain scene these guys have. Villain scenes are padding by definition. Well, at least he's complaining because he was playing a video game and he hit jump. But he looks too hideous for me to care about that moment of humanity. I can't take him seriously. He's probably still just a bad guy. Oh, come on! Why are there 2 pages of these hideous-looking characters? Ugh! Why is there another one? My eyes weren't punished enough? Let me guess. The bad guys hate the heroes because they're demons, and otherwise it's a repeat of the same melodrama with the green people from before, where the sister cares about a brother who's happy to be a cyborg. If that's all, it's worthless. I might put text up if there's anything to actually say about this. Oh, come on, another page of them? The writer really didn't get the message. It's like he's completely oblivious. Finally, we see Bunny again, and she's holding a device that pings, and she hopes she found a Chaos Emerald. She hopes that someone brought it here, thinking that it would save the world. Then she meets up with the hideous cyborg. By the way, I can't imagine how a member of Eggman's army didn't immediately recognize Bunny on sight. You'd think that she'd be the most famous freedom fighter aside from Sonic, because she's the only one who's like this. I don't care about the story. I wanted to, but not with the character looking like this. And he likes Eggman, so he's not a good person, so I'm allowed to judge a book by its cover in this case, because nothing's good about him anyways. Well, at least they're trying to attack each other the whole time. I always assumed that the cyborg Bunny would meet would be a proper parallel to her, being a neutral or good character who willingly got cybernetics, not, of course, another Dark Legionnaire. At least it's a bit more exciting that way. But I have no faith either of them will get injured or die, so there's no stakes. I guess they'd have the guts to have her cybernetics get damaged, but that's it. And I'm sure Rotor would prepare them off screen and she'd be fine the next story anyways. Wait, what the fucking fuck? The story's not over? It's gonna continue on to the next issue? Hey, maybe if they didn't have the idiotic decision to waste pages on a villain scene featuring confusing one-dimensional monsters who look like shit, maybe they could have had enough space to resolve all this in one story, which I naturally assumed would have happened. I also always assumed this would be by Flynn, but the story's so awful that it was by him in spirit anyways, so I'm probably gonna remember it as such. It seems to lack self-awareness from the writer to give characters looking like this any kind of focus beyond the heroes attacking them and defeating them immediately. The first story was by Ian Flynn. For the most part, it was just lazily stealing from the episode of Sad AM where Lupe showed up. We're in a different continuity now. There's no excuse for that. How am I supposed to be excited by the same thing again? So most of the story was boring and disappointingly uncreative. Why did Sonic have to beat a machine by luring into lightning twice? So naturally I felt underwhelmed that this was supposed to be Sonic earning a Gaia Temple key. When at first I was ecstatic at some actual arc progression because originally, for once, Lupe is the Guardian. She also reveals there's decoy Gaia temples, which happens to bother Eggman, but makes about as much sense back when the temples were first made as decoy fire extinguishers. We should have been shown that a very powerful psychic predicted Eggman's exact plan thousands of years ago, and that's why they knew to do all this bullshit. The only really original thing about this was that Sally was the one who convinced Lupe to start freedom fighting while Lupe was busy crying about her father. Okay, good for Sally, but it weakens Lupe's character, requiring her to be talked into it while she's despairing. She was more respectable in Sad AM where this wasn't the case. She should have just started fighting anyways out of revenge. Maybe we would have cared more about Lupe crying instead of finding it wanked if we actually got to meet her father and got to know him. It's just weird because Lupe is known for being calm, not super emotional. The second story, by Allah Baker, started out promising but was completely ruined by the horrible looking DeviantArt characters who were somehow happily working for Eggman, like the Badnik Repair Squad and Fleetway who still showed up less. These guys needed to be robots instead. Even then, they're just pure evil and impossible to understand, so I skipped all of their padding villain scene. I'm sure it just consisted of them going, "Ugh, I hate the heroes for no reason. No, sis, don't go after the hero. You're too pathetic." And then he goes anyways because he's an idiot. Why would I be able to stand experiencing a story if 1, most of the characters look distractingly awful and embarrassing, and 2, It's the 8 deadly words, where I don't care what happens to these characters. At least the background characters in Fleetway looked creative, so I could grow to respect that, as they had the creativity to use a unique art style. Which makes them feel professional, because no person who makes a Sonic OC would have a different art style for it. And at least they didn't remind me of fanfiction OCs make the comic look even more unprofessional. And by the way, their personalities suck. So it's not just a case of being superficial either, because the cover suits the book really well. The story seems like it could have easily not existed, let alone been a story arc. Bunny could have easily found the emerald anywhere else. It was implied to have been found by locals before.